Welcome, welcome. Today is January 26th, and this is our first Power Up call of the year. We're really excited. This is a call that I've been looking forward to for a while. Disha Waddup is our guest today, and we're going to be talking all about Facebook. This is probably one of the questions that I get the most from my clients. Most of my clients have a Facebook group where they want to optimize their presence there a little bit more. They want to figure out how to create more engagement within the groups that they already have. How do you join other groups and then provide value there so that new customers want to potentially work with you, and so much more. So there's a lot of things that we're going to be covering today, and I'm really, really excited. But I want to introduce Disha to us. She is just a gem, and I'm excited that she's here. Disha is actually an accredited lead trainer with Facebook, and she helps business owners scale to 6 to 7 figures. And she's been in marketing for 8 years. So this is really her bread and butter, what she lives and breathes. And she personally has developed a method, if you will, to leveraging Facebook and so that you can attract new customers and nurture existing ones. So Disha, welcome. I would love to have you say a few words and introduce yourself too.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. Firstly, my dog is being really annoying for some reason right now. So he's like jumping up and down at me. So if I keep looking down, that's what I'm doing, is pushing him away. I think he wants second dinner. He has had food. He just doesn't like.
So she can join us.
Yeah, very annoying animals. But hello, everybody. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I focus mainly on social media groups. I love my group. My group has just under 1,800 people in it and generates me 6 figures of income. And I'm going to teach you and talk to you about some of that stuff that helps me do all of that today as well. And it's also date night tonight, so I've done my hair all pretty too, so you guys are privileged, because usually you don't get this on my lives.
Tell everybody where you're located, because I know everybody just loves your accent.
Yeah, so I'm in Manchester in the UK, so it's 6 p.m. That's why I'm all ready for date night, because I'm running straight out the door after this.
Well, thank you so much for being with us on date night and for sharing some value with us and sharing. We're really excited about this topic, because I know really is something that I get asked a lot. So should we start, I guess, with a little bit more about how you personally are using Facebook? And I know that everybody's very, very intrigued with that idea that you generate 6 to 7 figures from your own Facebook group. And so tell us a little bit about what you do. What is the strategy there?
Yeah, so basically it's relationship first marketing. It is putting the relationship and building your relationships first ahead of everything. So it should be a natural progression, right? What the thing is to elevate yourself as the expert and that you know what you're talking about, over being a peer, which is what I see a lot of people doing, is becoming too friendly in a peer manner rather than becoming the expert in whatever it is that they're selling or teaching. So becoming the expert and becoming the go-to resource. So like you invited me to come in here, I have people that send me messages, oh, my Facebook's playing up, you always know where the buttons have gone or what's happening. How can you help me? And with quick questions like that, I'm like, yeah, sure, no worries. Here you go. Because those are the people that when they are ready to sign up with me, they're like, oh, you've helped me so many times. You're amazing. How can I work with you? I'm like, sure, no worries. Here's all the stuff. So the way that I work, I don't generally do a lot of sales calls, because most people that come through to work with me already know, love, and trust me through my face and showing up and communicating with people inside of my group. So by the time they jump on a sales call, they're like, I just have a quick couple of questions before I sign up to your offer. I'm like, sure, great. Which means no hard selling. It's easy. And that's what I love, right?
It's beautiful. And I love that it's so focused on the individual too, that it's very authentic and it's not pushy. So tell us what that looks like on a day-to-day. Like, what are you doing in your Facebook group? And maybe tell us a little bit about your offers so that people have an idea of how they can monetize their Facebook group. That if if they have a group, but they don't have actually anything to offer or upsell people to, obviously that makes it hard to earn money from it.
Yeah, so you definitely need something to sell inside of a Facebook group, because people have reached out to me before about how they can optimize charity groups and everything, and I'm all for charity, but running a Facebook group is a lot of work. So you need to have some sort of monetization strategy around growing your group, because it's a lot of work. I spend literally most of my day inside of my Facebook group. I'm communicating with people. So how I structure that is I spend 40 minutes to an hour in the morning sending messages to people inside of my group, checking in, how they're finding things. How have you found the content in the group? Is there anything I can help you with right now? But I approach my group as if I'm the concierge. And like you would a party or anything else that you attend, when somebody enters your party, you show them around. You're like, here's the toilets, here's where you can get a drink, go outside for a smoke if you're that way inclined. You show them the lay of the land. And that is basically what we're doing inside of the group. And that is something that a lot of people don't do. So when you join a group, you don't usually get that type of connection with anybody inside of the group. So therefore your group then becomes the standout group, because like, oh, she actually welcomed me. She said hello. She told me where I could get the information that I needed. Like, how cool is that? And that then stands out against everything else that's online, because right now everybody is trying to sell you something online. And from you just coming from a place of service, of just, here's where you can go and learn about this. Here's where you can access this. I've got a live going on about this. Then take in what you need and come back to me with questions.
I love that, because a lot of people, I think, sometimes lead with sending those messages of like, hey, welcome to the group. Just wanted to let you know here's how you can get more of me. And they sort of skip that relationship piece that's so crucial, I think, that to show them that you're giving something, you're serving them rather than just asking. Give before ask, I like to say.
Yeah, exactly. And so the first message that I send to people is, hey, welcome to my group. And these are the rules inside the group. Like, if you want to go and promote, you can, but I prefer value over promotion. And then I say, look, I know there's so much content inside of my group. So what I would like to do is gift you some training, but I need to get to know you first, so I know how to direct you to something that would be useful for you right now. How can I ask you a couple of questions?
Very cool.
And then I just dive right in and have conversations.
That's amazing. I imagine that most people probably respond back to you because they don't feel that they're being sold to. They feel like you're giving them something for free about you.
Yeah, exactly. And if they're a good fit, then I'm like, oh, I might be able to help you with that. Actually, I can jump on a call and we can talk through the options. I can give you some advice on how to make that happen. And then if you like what I'm talking about, then I can explain how we could work together if that's something that you're interested in.
Very cool. So how do you get people into your group then? How are you finding people to join your group so that they start to develop that relationship with you?
So there are so many ways to do this. And I was listing them out. I just recently launched the 6-Figure Incubator, which is my 12-month program. And I have brought in experts for this particular section as well, the growth section. So the first thing is organic strategies, is going out into other people's groups and using other people's groups and communities to leverage your own. That is how I built my first business as a social media manager, was going out into other people's groups and leveraging other people's communities and building a network for myself. So that is how I made my first business. And we had a team of 5 and a massively successful social media management agency just by doing that. And that wasn't selling in anybody's group or breaking any rules or anything like that. It was just becoming the expert in those groups. So I teach that strategy of going into those groups and networking by using posts that aren't salesy. The other thing you can do is utilizing your email list, making sure that everybody on your email list knows that you've got a Facebook group to start with, because the amount of people that I know that have never even emailed their list about their Facebook group blows my mind. So use your email list and make sure that those people are aware you have a group, even in a non-salesy way. Like, just tell them what's happening inside your group. Tell them what lives are going on, what the plan is for the next week or month, and give them an insight like you would at a party. Here's what's happening when you can attend these events. Come along and hang out with me. So make sure you're using your group. The other thing is you can start to use any press, any PR that you get. You can start to utilize that to leverage your group as well. Make sure your group is available on your website. If press is going to link back to your website, or you can link them straight to your Facebook group as well. So make sure you're leveraging those things. I've got some press coming out in the national news in the next couple of weeks. They'll be going to my website. So I'm making sure that my Facebook group is all over that bad boy. So hopefully we'll get a nice influx of people into my group. And that's through just leveraging press for my business. The same as then using ads. I don't use ads, but if you do want fast growth inside of your group, ads are a way to get fast growth. And some of my clients have done that to build their groups extremely fast.
So for an ad, you're saying that they would create an ad that basically leads people to the group itself, that like, hey, this is what our group is all about. Feel free to join.
Yeah. So with an ad, you can't link directly to your group.
Mm-hmm.
You can either do a lead generation ad, which basically captures some data, which you can add them into your email list, and then have a button on the back end of that to say, join my group. And then you can email them about what's going on in your group and encourage them to join that way as well. Or you can send them to a landing page, which then encourages them to sign up to your group as well. So there are a few ways you can run those ads.
Cool. I love that. And so tell us a little bit more about that idea of joining other people's groups, like groups that you do not manage or own yourself, and leveraging that community, especially like what you said, without violating those group rules of self-promotion. Because I think some people think, well, that group doesn't let me self-promote, so I'm out of luck and I can't, that's not going to be a group that will support me and help me find clients. But I think that's a misnomer.
Yeah. So one of the posts that I use quite regularly, and I'm all a fan of repurposing content. So I have a very long content management system that has tons of posts in that I repurpose all the time. And one of the posts that has worked really well for me is a post where I talk about a selfies with strangers challenge that I did. And it is not promoting at all. It's just me showcasing how much of a weirdo I am, basically. Like I went out for 30 days and I took selfies with strangers, pre-COVID, obviously. But I went and I had to have as much of a conversation with somebody as possible to be able to take a selfie with them. And then I shared a collage of all of those 30 people that I took a selfie with. And I just, in the post, I basically explain the challenge and encourage people to get outside their comfort zone and go and do something that's wild and wacky, and just to push themselves outside their comfort zone, grow their business a little bit. And I have generated money and income from that post. People have told me, oh, I joined your program because of that post you posted about selfies. I'm like, okay. So it's just showcasing your personality more than often. And people are like, oh, she seems like a weird chick that I might like. I'm gonna friend request her. She seems like a cool person. Things about, I throw birthday parties for my dog because I'm a single woman in my 30s and I got nothing else to spend my money on. People love that too, because they're like, oh, she seems like a weird person I might like. Go and check out her. So it doesn't have to be work related. You have to think of your clients as a whole human and everything else that they're interested in. And people buy from people that they know, love, and trust. So if you can be your weird, authentic party person, then people are going to fall in love with that and more likely to buy from you a lot quicker.
I love that. I know that most of the people on this group are in the natural health space. Some are virtual assistants. We have a doula here. We have life coaches. What are your recommendations for those kinds of people to, like, what kinds of groups should they be joining, let's say in the natural health space, so that they can find potential customers and connect with them there?
Yeah, so when you are looking at groups that you can join, make sure you think about your ideal client as a whole human. And if you're in a lot of my clients are in the natural health space, for example, and wellness practitioners. And if you go ahead and join other groups full of wellness practitioners, then those groups are saturated with other people trying to help those people. Basically, like everybody is in there trying to help those people. Whereas if you think of your client as a whole human and everything else that they're interested in, like, you know, they might also be a mom, or they might also like gardening if they're into their health and wellness. They also might like a whole bunch of different things. Then you can go into groups that have those interests, and then you can quite easily become the expert, because you're not competing for against everybody else that is also talking about the same thing in that group. You become the expert in that group for your specific niche. and it's much easier to stand out. So that's what I would think about when you're looking at groups to join. Think about your client as a whole human and everything else that they're interested in.
Yeah, I know that some of my clients have come from, I'm in different Facebook groups where my audience is in, and I don't necessarily make posts, but I do a lot of commenting on other people's posts where somebody asks a question and I have an answer, and then I will give a very, honest and helpful response. But I don't say, and if you want more, whatever, message me. I just give them value, and then usually I'll get several comments on my thread that's like, oh, that was really helpful. Can you give me more information? Or that was like, how else can I connect with you? And I didn't invite them to connect or anything, but they asked to connect because my response was so helpful to them. And from there, because I'm usually in Facebook groups for my personal Facebook profile, not my business profile, then they'll go to my profile and see who I am and like, oh, she has a website, or oh, she has a whatever. And then that's where people will sometimes find me from. And so let's talk just a little bit about that. Like, how do you provide value then? Even if you aren't making posts, but you might be answering questions that people are asking in the group. What does that look like?
Yeah, so what I do is I aim to be active in at least 2 groups a day. And I set a timer because you can get lost in Facebook, right? So set a timer, 15 minutes, go in, be active. You can use the search function if you're looking specifically for posts around a specific subject, and make sure that you're commenting on those and be active in those groups, providing value. The thing that's going to differentiate you against everybody else is if you stand up as the expert. So for example, when I was a social media manager, I signed one of my biggest clients through a comment on somebody's Facebook group because I specifically worked with wellness entrepreneurs. This was a wellness entrepreneur, and they were looking for somebody to help them. And everybody else goes, I can help. Yeah, I can help. I can help. And that's it. Or I'll DM you. Whereas I went, I'm a social media manager. I specifically work with wellness entrepreneurs. I have tons of blogs specifically on how wellness entrepreneurs can leverage their social media organically. Here are my stats. You can go and check out these things. And then they were like, you're my person. Because I suddenly stood out against all of those other people that had commented. And that not only worked for that specific client, but had other people reaching out, because that's the thing. The other people are also searching those groups in the comments for people they can work with as well. And when you stand out as the expert, and sometimes I'll comment on posts where I know they're not my ideal client, and I will even call that out in the comments. I'll be like, oh, I work with this type of person and these are the results I've got, knowing that they're not that type of person. But I'm waiting for that one person that sees the comments and goes, oh, she works with people like me. I'm going to go and message her. So you have to make sure that your comments are well thought out and elevate yourself as the expert in what you're doing, rather than just saying, yeah, I can help. That's cool. But do set a timer and be specific with that time that you're in groups, because you can go forever. I also have a plugin on my desktop that called Newsfeed Eradicator, which is a Chrome plugin, which means you don't see the newsfeed on your Facebook profile.
Oh, so, that's cool.
Yeah, so I could never get accidentally distracted with the scroll. And if I pick up my phone, it means I'm procrastinating because I'm scrolling through Facebook aimlessly. So I don't have the newsfeed on my desktop at all. I have to specifically go into a group and search for it. So it was called Newsfeed Eradicator.
Newsfeed Eradicator Chrome extension. I'm totally going to look that up. I feel like that's because that really is the challenge, right? Is that we sort of get sucked into this warp of social media and we forget why we're actually there, is to work on our business instead of getting distracted. And so I love that. I love that so much. I love how you talked about how you connect with people in your Facebook, in these Facebook groups that you may not even own or manage, but and I think that's actually how you and I connected, is that we were both in a Facebook group and you answered a question, and in the way that you responded, I was like, oop, this person is someone I need to connect with because I can tell that they know what they're talking about. And you didn't hold back on the value you were providing. I know so many people that do this where they will sort of tease value and they will say, hey, it sounds like maybe somebody asked a question about, sleep with their baby, how do they get their baby to sleep through the night? And somebody else, answered, everybody's like, oh, I can help you, or I have a great thing that might support you. Let me know if you want it. But they are very vague with their support rather than just answering the question. So they feel heard and valued rather than there's like some ulterior motive. Like, I will only answer your question if you're a customer of mine, kind of a thing. They just provide value, help them. And then that person now wants more of what they have. And I think that's super key.
Yeah. And the other coin of that is making sure that your personal profile is optimized so that people who are nosy, because we're all humans and we're all nosy, right? Like, there ain't nobody lying about that. We're all nosy. So when somebody posts some really good content, you're like, oh, let me go and see more about that person. And if you can go to their profile and then clearly see what it is that they offer, then you're like, oh, I'm in. And I did, I was nosing at somebody else's content recently because they'd posted in a group saying they were an expert on Facebook groups. And I was like, oh, who's this person? That's a new face I haven't seen say they're a Facebook group expert before. I'm going to be nosy. Couldn't find a damn thing on her profile about Facebook groups at all. She had something else, completely different business everywhere, nothing to do with Facebook groups. And I was like, you don't seem that much of an expert. Like, you haven't posted about it at all. So then I was really turned off. And that's what your clients are seeing when you're standing out there with an expert, and then they go over and have a look at your profile. They're like, oh, she doesn't seem to be an expert. So when you're looking at your profile, make sure, and this, if you've never done this before, view your profile. You can click on a button on your profile to say view as, and you can see it as people would see it if they weren't your friend. And that means you can then see what posts are coming up for them. Because if you haven't done this before, I bet you've got all of those spammy things that we used to do years ago where you reshare things and everybody can see it. Especially if you've kept all of your posts private since then. That is what people will see when they go and see your profile if you've not curated that feed. So I don't put all of my posts public on my Facebook profile at all, but I do curate what I do put public, because I want to make sure that when people are being nosy, if they're not my friend yet, they can see specific posts that I want them to see about my business. So they can say, yeah, she knows what she's talking about. Maybe I'll add her a friend or go and join the group.
I think that's really important because a lot of people are like, well, my personal Facebook is just personal. It has nothing to do with my business, which 99% of the time is true. But your profile, at least like your intro, your about statement, your links that you include there. And like you said, some of those public posts need to sort of reflect more than your individual life, but also a little bit about what you do as a profession. And that's probably something I could work on a little bit more too, is putting more of making my business posts, because I actually don't talk a lot about on my personal profile, my business, but it's something that I've been thinking about doing more so that I can, because I'm in so many groups talking and providing value. And a lot of them will find me on Instagram. No, because that's what's on my profile right now, or my website. But I could do better with my feed. And I think that's really great advice.
Yeah, it's funny. When I started doing it, I had family members reach out going, are you struggling for work? Like, you've never posted about your business on your personal profile before. Are you okay? And when I started doing it, my business started I hit my first 10K months. Like, my business started massively taking off because I suddenly became so visible to all of these people that I'd been hiding my business behind. So I just said to my family, like, yeah, you're just gonna have to get used to it. If you don't like it, that's fine. Unfriend me. You got me. You got my phone number. It's fine. I'm not offended. But my business took off massively. So I was like, it's fine. My profile is now work.
Well, it's funny because I had this aha moment the other day when a friend of mine that I've known probably for 15 years, like I made a comment because he was asking a question about, why the job market right now seems to be so many people are leaving their jobs. He said, well, actually, like in the industry I work in, a lot of people are choosing to be their own boss now, or becoming virtual assistants, or those kinds of things. It's like, wait a second, what do you do? And I was like, I think I'm doing something wrong if like all of my personal friends don't even know what my business is. My business is not suffering. It's very, very much thriving, but I think I could do better at letting my personal network know, and not necessarily in a salesy way, but at least making more posts about it, right? That this is also a part of me, is my business. And I think that we sometimes hold that back too much. And so
yeah, and it's
I
a
love
really
that.
good referral network that you've probably never tapped into before.
Yeah.
Because I found that, like, I had old university lecturers on my Facebook profile that then invited me to become guest lecturers at uni. And I was like, oh, this is exciting. Like, I never thought that was in my path. But because they saw what I was doing, what I was talking about, they're like, oh, do you want to come back to university and teach a lecture on this? I'm like, okay, yeah, that would be great. Thanks.
I love that. So
Right?
what tips then do you have for people that want to optimize their profile? I know that there's a few questions here in the chat that we'll get here in a second, but what things should they have on their personal profile instead of just like the banner of their kids, or for baby mom since 2007, or you know what I mean? Like, what can we do to make that work better?
Yeah. So the first thing you can do is make sure that you can see your face on your profile picture. Like, people buy from people they know, love, and trust. So if they can see your eyeballs, and funnily enough, there have been research studies into evidence, even on eyeballs, on emojis, make a difference to people buying or not. Like, eyeballs are huge. So if people can see your face, it's going to make a massive difference to that know, love, and trust factor, especially on Facebook when there's a whole bunch of weirdos. Like, and that's just the truth, right? There are a whole bunch of weirdos on Facebook. So if you can show your face, you're standing out against those. So that's the first thing. The second thing is make sure that you've got your bio or your intro optimized. So for example, on my profile, I said I have joined the community of entrepreneurs making sales organically on Facebook, and I have a link. So they go straight to my group. So anybody I'm interacting with knows that they can join my group. Usually I also have a banner that optimizes what my group or whatever I'm selling. But I've just changed it because I change it quite often because I want it to come back up on the newsfeed. So currently I have a cute picture of my dog with his tongue out. And then later on this week, it will go back to a business profile header image. Entirely up to you if you want to do that, because obviously that it is your public profile or personal profile. But that is one way to do it. And then as you scroll down, you've got your links. And historically, everybody's used Facebook, I don't know why, as a CV. So they've got all of the schools they've attended, all of the jobs they've ever done, all of those things on their profile. Get rid of all that. Nobody cares what school you went to. Like, once you've got your GCSEs, that's it, right? Nobody really cares after that. Take all of that off, take all of your old job history, and just put links to your business. So I have like a social media and business coach at Social Treats and a link to my business page. I have my Instagram and my website links on there as well. And then below that, and this is really important, do look at the photos you have that pop up on this area, because you can specify featured images. And one of my clients, bless her soul, I looked at her personal profile, and the photos that came up on this image, she was in the wellness industry, but the photos that came up on her featured image section when you scrolled her profile were some sort of BDSM photos that she'd had taken like 15 years ago that she didn't realize people could still see.
Oh no.
I was like, oh no. I was like, you need to look at your photos. Like, not appropriate, especially in the wellness niche. She was like, I just didn't know they were there. So be mindful of the featured images that come up on your profile as well. And if it's representative of your brand, because those photos, especially those ones that people have tagged you in, are generally available for public consumption as well. So just be mindful of those images too. And if you do use the featured images, you can curate what that looks like too.
It's funny you say that because especially where I do recruiting and I help people find virtual assistants, sometimes they will apply through their Facebook account and you'd be surprised to see what people leave on their public profile, like either really profane or vulgar or just sort of just not professional. Like if you're applying through Facebook and using that in any way to engage with a business relationship, there should be some business things there and not um your naked rear end, or you know what I mean? Like it needs to sort of be a little and it's surprising actually how much that happens. For those, because I know a lot of people are wondering, how do I see what other people see? Just really quick, would you mind if I share my screen so I can show people
Yeah.
how to do the view as, because I know people are asking that. Okay, can you see my Facebook?
Yeah.
And I'm sure that you're looking at this already and be like, oh my gosh, there's so much we can fix. But this is what it is now. So here is these three little dots. Just click view as, and now you can see what it looks like to anybody that's coming at it publicly, so that it's different than what I see when I come to my profile. So these are all of like my personal well, no, it's disabled, but these are basically my profile public photos that I've had recently. And those are the only ones that I have on there right now as far as public. But these are the things that she's talking about right now, is editing your intro and where people are linking to, and maybe having your other social and website links here. So hopefully that helps a little bit.
Yeah, you can also, you don't have to have when you joined Facebook on there as well. You can delete that too.
You remove that, yeah. Yeah, and then Katie asks, is this on your personal profile? Yes, because if you think when you're joining other groups, other Facebook groups that are not your own, generally you are joining from your personal Facebook profile. And when people are like, oh, who was this person that answered that question? They click on your profile, and normally it just takes them to like mom of 7 or whatever it is, and it doesn't have actually all of your business information on there that would direct them to work with you further. And so we want to make sure that your personal profile still has a little bit about what you do professionally.
Another tip actually on your personal profile, this is a new feature that Facebook recently launched. You can pin a post on your personal profile as well. So if you make that public, that is available for people to see all the time as well, and it'll be pinned at the top of your personal profile.
Oh, that's good. So if you made like a post about your business or anything like that, then you could do that. But I love that. Perfect. Yeah. Awesome. So let's get to some of these questions. I know a lot of people have been asking questions. So Sarah asked, how much of a time commitment would you expect to put in for a successful, well-running group, like for your own personal group? And then also for those of us who do not yet currently have groups, any tips for the inevitable awkward beginning when there are like 3 people in there? She says, I'm terrified for having a sad failed group.
Yeah. So the first thing is for getting started, just go for it. Do a big launch event for the group, which will kickstart all of those people coming in. So when I launch a group with a client, we do like 7 days of Facebook Lives. We run challenges and masterclasses. We talk about the group all the time to get as many people in as quickly as possible. So we almost have like a launch date, like you would any other big thing that you're launching or offer that you're launching, so you can create loads of excitement around it. So do that. In terms of the time commitment, it is time consuming. So what I tell my clients is, don't start a Facebook group if you are struggling for money in your business right now, because I made that mistake, and you don't have the time to commit to your Facebook group because you're running around trying to get clients and deliver on those clients and all the rest of it. So build a Facebook group as an additional building block to your strategy, rather than relying on it to bring in you that income, because it is going to take you some time to build the Facebook group up and all the rest of it. So I actually launched my first Facebook group in 2017, and I wasn't full-time in my business at that point, and I didn't have the time to manage it. I was working full-time, trying to manage clients. I had a team already because I was so desperate to quit my job. I couldn't do it all on my own. So I had a team already that I was trying to manage, and I was trying to get more clients so I could quit my job. And I was trying to manage this Facebook group. It just didn't work. And it flopped. And then I closed it in 2020. I went full-time in my business in 2018. I closed that group in 2020 with 800 people in it and launched my new group, which has doubled in size in half the time, because I'm not running around looking for clients. I have a team that manages things and I have time to dedicate to my group. So just don't make those same mistakes I have. It's my top tip.
So how much would you say, like, how many times do you post each day or week? How many times do you go live? What does that look like on maybe an hours level? Like, how many hours do you put into the group now?
So it gets easier, right? Because the more content you have, the easier it is. And I have so much content now that if I don't have anything to say, I can just pull it from my back catalog of content and have something to post. So I post at least every day inside of my group, if not a couple of times a day. And I'm posting at least every day on my personal profile as well. But a lot of that content is repurposed content. Like, I also use some of that content in other people's groups and on my personal profile. And sometimes it goes on Instagram as well. So it is all repurposed content. You're not just doing it just inside your group. Of course, there are some things that are group specific. So like polls and questions and sticker posts and all of those fun stuff that you can do inside of groups, that you can keep inside of your group as well. But you want to post at least every day to increase the engagement. I always say that you want to look at your group like a mirror. So if you show up, people will show up inside your group. If you don't show up consistently, they're not going to show up consistently. So it really is a toing and froing. If you're there all the time, people are going to be there all the time, and they're going to know that they can sense your energy from the group, right? If you're just scheduling posts and be like, I'm done, I scheduled 5 posts this week, I'm out. Then they're going to be like, oh, she hasn't commented back for 5 days. Like, she doesn't care about me. I'm just sat here on my own. I posted in the group, asked a question, nobody got back to me. So people will drop out that way as well.
I love that. And so, again, on a time scale, if somebody right now, let's say they're not necessarily banking on this being their sole source of income yet, they have the ability to have this be a second stream of income eventually, and they have time to help grow it. How much time do you think they would spend? Maybe like an hour a day at least?
Yeah, I would say an hour a day. When you start doing a big direct message strategy as well, that's just what I do in my group, then it adds up. I do probably a couple of hours at the start of the week planning out the content that's going to go in the group. And then I just focus on the direct message and the engagement in the group every day. So I do a couple of hours of content planning, then an hour a day inside the group, direct messaging people and engaging in content.
Awesome. I love that. And it's not necessarily an hour just like going live and making posts. It's really engaging with the community and responding to their comments or sending messages. Yeah. I love that. Cool. Laurie says, when you're looking for Facebook groups to join, should you join as a page or your personal profile?
Most groups won't allow you to join as a business page. I certainly don't allow people to join my group as a business page. So I find you don't see notifications. It's not very personal, and you're not building that know, love, and trust factor very quickly if you join as a business page. So I would join as your personal profile.
Yeah. And then Wayne had a good question. He said, do you think you actually need to join the groups? I've heard that going to public groups without joining removes all the rules and worries about being kicked out. You can also welcome new people to those groups, even if you aren't a member. I'm a little bit confused by your question, Wayne. Are you talking about like public groups instead, or what is your question referring to?
So there are public and private groups, if I'm right in the way to structure this. Go on, Wayne. Is there a specific way you wanted me to answer?
Well, another training I had been on had suggested that don't even bother looking for, if you're looking for groups, like you had said, look for ones that are the whole human piece. So something you're interested in, not necessarily your business. If you like to travel, go to travel groups, find a public group, and then you can interact with the people in the group without actually even joining. You can even go and see who the new members are and welcome them as a member of the group and ask them where they want to travel. And they don't even know that you're not a member of the group. You're still building up a rapport, and you don't have to deal with any of the restrictions of anybody, posting something inadvertently that's against the rules or anything because you're in a public group.
Yeah. I don't like public groups, so I don't join them. Public groups tend to be very spammy. So I personally stay out of them because of that reason. And I don't recommend people create public groups because of that reason, because they can become very spammy and you can't control who's posting and what's going on inside your group. It tends to be very, very large groups that you'll get lost in as well that are public. However, Facebook changed the rules very recently on the way that public, private groups and hidden groups are structured. So a lot of groups have accidentally been made public without the group owners knowing, because they are not as hot on their optimization as they should be. So do be mindful of that, because if you do have a group, go and check your settings, because Facebook have changed a lot of stuff recently and a lot of people have been caught out on that.
Yeah, and I personally, I'm the same. I don't really love public groups, because the groups that I seek out to join are ones that are solving specific problems of mine or of interest to me. So I'm in a lot of like business mom Facebook groups, or natural health Facebook groups, or those kinds of things, or mommy groups, and I'm asking questions there. Or when especially like the business groups, I love the couple of the ones that I'm in, and I purposely joined some and then left some because they either were too spammy or didn't feel like they were serving my needs. And so the ones that I've stayed in are the ones where people are like me, asking questions like me, and where I can, one, feel value from and give value from. And so I feel like a group like that, if you can find your audience in, I feel like that you can get a lot of really great potential connections from. And I've made a lot of really great connections in those kinds of groups.
You also find that public groups, people don't ask as personal questions, specifically if your niche is in wellness. People don't tend to say, oh, I've got this weird rash I can't solve publicly. So if it's in a private group, they feel more comfortable sharing that sort of information, because the rest of their friends and followers don't see that stuff. So, be mindful of that as well, depending on your industry.
Absolutely. Another question was, do you have a blog or resource on how to optimize your Facebook profile? I need first steps here. And that's a question that I have too, actually, that once we kind of get through some of our questions, I would love for Disha to share some ways that you can get in touch with her, because I know a lot of you are thinking, I need help. I would love to join some of her resources or groups that she has. So we'll put a pin in that one until the very end. And let's see. She says, Disha, do you even use a business page?
I have a business page. That's it. I don't use it. I have one because people stalk you as a business, and I use a software called Recur Post, which was free, but I'm on an old plan. They've changed it recently, annoyingly, and it just recycles posts for me every 6 to 8 weeks. So my blogs just constantly get going, because how fickle people are. If the Facebook page hasn't been posted on for a while, they think you've died. So that just keeps my Facebook page ticking over and fresh content on it. But I'm not active on it at all. If I need to run ads, I could, but I don't. So.
And you said it's Recur Post. That's what it's called.
Recur Post. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same. I have my Facebook page, but I mostly, because I'm posting or scheduling to Instagram, I just have it scheduled to both places just so that it looks like I'm there. And in fact, I actually just got a new client from someone a cold lead who saw me on my Facebook page, saw a post, and decided to schedule an appointment with me. And I made me grateful that I was still having just stuff out there, even though I'm not necessarily doing a ton of engagement on my page, but just to know that it's active, I think was helpful. Another question says, I'm finding so much more interaction and engagement just using personal. Is there still value in BizPhase? Okay, we kind of answered that. How do you keep your content that you're reposting organized?
So I use a software called Airtable to keep all my content organized. And I have it so that I can, my VA goes in, I curate my fresh content inside of my group, and then my VA goes in and copies that onto my Airtable template, so that I can repurpose it everywhere. So I can give you guys a link to that, and I'm happy to share it with you, Megan. You can send it out to people if you'd like.
That'd be perfect.
So people can access that template, and it just, with Airtable, there is a start here button, so you can see how to use it, and there's a little masterclass and all the rest of it on how to access and use Airtable. But that's what I use.
I love it. And I know we have some people that are diehard Trello or diehard ClickUp or whatever else you're using. So even if you're already into a system and you're worried about getting into another one, at least look at the template and see how you can turn it into whatever platform you're using.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be Airtable. It's just a way to have content somewhere else, and a way you can systemize it. So I'm not a fan of Excel just from a search function process. And I have mine systemized by am I selling in this post? Which groups can I post that in if I'm not selling? And what am I talking about? So if I'm promoting a specific offer at a specific time, I can go and search by things like that as well. So from that point of view, being able to see all of my content over the past 5 years is really, really useful. Now I have to scroll back through Facebook.
I love that. So you basically created a database of all the past posts, because I think some people get really discouraged on social media, because especially Facebook and Instagram, it lives and dies in a day. Your posts do. And so you feel like, oh, I spent an hour writing this post and now it's dead. And now I have to start over again tomorrow. But if you can create a database of all of those posts and then you just recycle them over time, you really do save yourself a lot of trouble, I think.
Yeah.
This was a good question. Are Facebook parties or classes dead? I have a Facebook group, she says, for education and a separate group for selling, but the group for selling isn't active since it isn't used daily. Should I still use this group if it's only being used a few times a year for every now and then we do BOGOs?
I would keep everything in your main group. I'm not a fan of pop-up groups or anything like that, because I feel like you're dividing your audience and then you're having to get them back involved and get them back engaged and all the rest of it. Just keep it in your main group, and then all the engagement is there. Everybody is in the same place. If they don't sign up or they're not interested, they don't have to show up to your lives, but they get the opportunity to, and they might go back and watch it if they didn't show up live. So I'm not a fan of pop-up groups personally. I think everything should go in your main group.
So I know a lot of people here are in doTERRA network marketers, and they'll have a prospect group, like you said, a lead group, and then they have their customer group, those who have actually enrolled with them, and then they have a business group for those that are doing as business partners, doing a business with them as well. So what is your recommendation there? Maybe combine what I'm hearing is the lead and the customer group, but what about the business group? Because those would be two different audiences generally.
Yeah, so I would combine the prospect and customer, because those questions almost create FOMO as well. So those customers that are posting and asking for information is going to create FOMO for those that are in your prospect group that haven't signed up yet, and give them some insight into that. Business stuff is slightly different, because I have client groups where my membership, for example, they have their own little separate group, and they get special attention in there because they're making monies and doing all sorts of stuff and paid me. So from that side of point, I would keep those people separate, but definitely combine your prospect and customers. FOMO is the key to everything.
Yeah, because so many people create a separate group just for BOGOs, but if they hear all the other posts, like you said, I think that does create more synergy. So I on that topic of their own personal groups, this is a question I get all the time, probably weekly. How do I create engagement in my Facebook group for my customer group? I feel like it's dead. I'm posting in there every week. Things aren't happening. People aren't ordering. People aren't commenting. I don't feel like we have much of a community. How do people shift that if they have an existing group already?
Ask them what they want. Sounds so simple, right? But most people are trying to give people what they need instead of what they want. And what I mean by that is most people who are looking to lose weight, for example, they don't want to be told to stop eating cake. They like cake. That's why they need to lose weight. But they want the magical elixir that's going to solve everything. And that's what they're going to pay attention to. That's what they're going to pay attention to, not the, you have to stop eating cake line. And the same as I have one of my clients who works on boundaries, and her big offer is teaching people how they can set their own boundaries. But nobody is interested in setting boundaries. What they're interested in is having more time for their kids or creating more self-care. And she's like, but it all comes down to boundaries. I'm like, but that's what they want. So that's what you have to deliver them. And then tell them this is about setting boundaries. but here's how you spend more time with your kids, and here's how you set more time aside for self-care, because that's what people want. And you give them what they need in the back end, but nobody shows up for what they need. They show up for what they want.
Ooh, that's so powerful. I just kind of want to put that on a plaque in my office. That's so good. So good. So good. Another question came through. What are you using to schedule to Facebook and Instagram? I'm personally using Facebook Business Manager because it's free, and it's the tool that will, the only tool that I know that will let you schedule stories and carousels. Planoly and Tailwind and all these other ones don't let you schedule on that level, and I think it does more than these paid platforms. But do you do anything different, Disha?
I use Planoly, I think, now for Instagram. But for Facebook, I just schedule directly into my group usually, and recur post for the business page.
Yeah, and just for clarification, everyone, there's not, that I know, maybe you know of one, Disha, that they're a scheduler for Facebook groups. There's not like a Planoly for groups. It's always the page or your Instagram.
Yeah, you have to schedule directly inside of your group.
Yeah. Michelle, I use the Facebook Business Suite or the Facebook Business Manager, whatever you want to call it. And it's just, if you have a Facebook page, you should have a Facebook Business Manager as well. Otherwise, you can set it up, and I can send you in the notes an article on how to do that. But it's a free, it's basically free within the system, and it will schedule both to Instagram and Facebook.
It's actually two different things. So just be mindful of that, because you can download the Facebook Business Suite and the Facebook Business Manager.
Yes,
so
yes.
They're two different things. So just make sure you're mindful of which one you're downloading.
And the Business Manager, that's the one for like ads and stuff. And the Business Suite, that's the one.
You can do both things on both of them.
Mm-hmm.
What Facebook did was they created the Business Suite to make it easier for people who needed a simple solution.
Mm-hmm.
And the Business Manager is a little bit more advanced in what it can do. I prefer the Business Manager, but I'm in it all the time. The Business Suite is very much simpler to use, and that was their idea of creating it. What they've actually done is just confused everybody. Nobody knows.
Yeah. I probably use the Manager now I'm thinking about it. So and there's a way, by the way, so I know that there's a big hoo-ha about like giving your password to other, like your VA. And so I don't actually, we moved away from me just giving my login to my Facebook to my VA. Instead, what we do now is I just added her as an admin on my Business Manager so that she can access my assets. And that way she can log in and see applications that have come in, or she can see those kinds of things. So if you have, many of you have VAs, that's a way to work around that issue as well. And they can still schedule posts and stuff for you too.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Yep. I totally love that, Katie, that you can save your hashtags and stuff in there too. Love that. And then yes, Stacey, it does schedule to stories as well on Instagram. Yeah, and Facebook. I don't know if I've ever done any Facebook stories, but I think it schedules to Facebook stories too. Awesome. Well, we're just wrapping up. I know that was a lot. We got to everybody's questions, I think finally. But Disha, I know that the big question everybody's asking is, I need more from Disha. How can they do that? How can they join your Facebook group? And then what are your, do you have any coaching calls or programs that people can join? Any freebies they can download? Tell us more.
Yeah. So there's my Facebook group is called Scaling with Disha, Organic Marketing Strategies for Entrepreneurs. And you can just search, my name usually pops up because, who else has a name like Disha? So that's always useful. Scaling with Disha is the name of the Facebook group. So you can come and connect with me there. I have a 6-figure incubator, which is my 12-month program where I take you through growing and selling in your Facebook group, which I started this year. So we've just had our second group coaching call, which has been going lovely. And people have got 200 people in their group since the start of the year already, which is fantastic. And people are already getting sales calls booked in as well, which is really cool to hear. So you can check out that by going to my website and looking at the incubator. And if you have any questions, you can send me a message. I also have a freebie, but I need to check the link. So I will send that to you, Megan, afterwards. But it's 11 steps to growing your Facebook group. So you can download that and access that as well if you would like that. And I will send you the Airtable template as well. The Airtable template links to one of my programs called Attract Dream Clients, which is specifically around going into other people's Facebook groups and connecting and building up that know, love, and trust factor in those other groups, and the content styles in which you can share in those groups without selling or being salesy. So the details of that are also on the Airtable template. So I will send you
I love it. That's perfect. And do you do any one-on-one coaching? Let's say piece. I know some people work really well in groups and others like, no, I just want like you one-on-one. Do you do any of that as well?
Yes. So I have a 6-month program where I work with people for 6 months one-on-one. And I've just launched a beta program as well, which is a 3-month scaling sales mastery program, where we literally just look at your sales processes and double your revenue in the next 3 months. So that's going through sales calls that you must be making already 2 to 5K per month. To be eligible for that beta, because it's a beta and I want to make sure people get massive results. But the 6-month program is a longer version, taking people through a longer process. So you can connect with me if you'd like more information on either of those.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. Everybody tell us in the chat if you found today helpful. I know that a lot of the questions that I seem to get all the time, I feel like you just hit every one of them on the head. And we so appreciate you, Disha, for connecting with us and sharing value with us today. People are saying, yes, thank you. That was so great. Thank you, Disha. Thanks. So very helpful. Lots of useful information. Thank you. Wonderful. Thank you, Disha. And we'll send all of the links and everything that we talked about from the call today, all of Disha's things and everything that we talked about from these the Chrome extensions and everything. We'll send in an email with all of the with a follow-up in a few days. So thank you. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Thank you, Disha.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.